Bob sat hunched over his laptop, frustration etched on his face. His once efficient Windows system has now become a labyrinth of endless updates, crashes, and inexplicable slowdowns. Bob has tried everything from sketchy programs to bloating software and even using paid apps. What do you think happens next? In the midst of an important presentation, Bob's laptop decides to freeze in spite of all of his efforts. Bob watches helplessly as the screen turns from blue to black. Meanwhile, across town in a cozy cafe sat Chad. Chad in a crisp suit and armed with a sleek laptop, he tapped away with the finesse of a seasoned pianist. Chad, you see, was a connoisseur of the digital realm. His expertise in Linux rivaled only by his passion for knowledge. You see, Chad knew Linux like an anime watcher knows their favorite waifu, obsessively. While Bob struggled with his outdated system, Chad seemingly navigated through his Linux setup, effortlessly switching between tasks with the grace of a seasoned dancer. His system hummed along, never skipping a beat, as if it were an extension of his own intellect. As the day wore on, Bob's woes only multiplied. Each crash, each error felt like a dagger to his already battered spirit. He longed for a solution, a respite from the endless cycle of tech-induced torment. Get this. Back in the old days, I used to be similar to Bob. I was subjected to infinite torments from Windows. There's always something not working with my computer, something unsupported, or some driver that needed to be downloaded, something that's always failing or slowing down my computer, something that I basically just don't want running on my machine. Perhaps your Discord kitten never told you this, but Windows is actually spying on you. Like, who could have thunk? So you see, we need a little bit of background. I mean, not that you really need it. Anyways, Windows is owned by Microsoft, right? But guess what Microsoft wants? Get it? They want money. Now, how do they get this money? Well, for one, Windows sales. And second of all, maybe software and hardware sales, because they do make their own hardware now. Now, that's not all bad, right? But now, let's say they're not satisfied. Let's say their greed has not been resolved yet. They just want more money. And they're like, dang, this ideal customer already bought our Surface laptop with the most expensive version of Windows. And then our product is good enough that they won't need to buy a new one for at least another 5 years. So, how do we make more money off this person? Obviously, they love buying Microsoft products. Well, Windows like, dang, we own the entire market share of the computer industry, right? Or at least the majority. So they're thinking, well, if we have so many people already using it, they shouldn't mind if we just like make it worse, right? So they decided to do that, right? They loaded Windows with a ton of spyware, telemetry, adware, and bloatware. And they did that because they know you've gotten comfortable with Windows. Yeah, they know, like, damn, we know this person ain't gonna find the 10 minutes to learn Linux, so we're just gonna keep making their system slower and worse just so we can get more money, right? It's almost like, what's the word? I don't remember what the word was, but anyways, they know they got you by something. I forget the saying already. But anyways, Microsoft collects all of your data, takes it, sells it for their own gain. In fact, maybe Microsoft might be part of the reason why OSINT, O-S-I-N-T, which stands for Open Source Intelligence, has become so easy in this modern day, because it's not just Microsoft. Everybody's collecting data nowadays. You might be thinking, but like, oh, but I'll just gonna wait for the right time, you know? I'm just gonna wait for my favorite video game to get ported to Linux, then I'll stop using Windows, right? That's what they all say, right? Well, you see, every moment you spend waiting for your game to be ported is another dollar that Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple gets in their pockets. I mean, I guess they can still get it even if you use Linux. So stop using their services as well. Go full sicko mode, or whatever they say, and go live in the woods. Anyways, It's also a missed opportunity to enjoy other experiences or engage and get this productive activities. No way. Who could have thought of that? Besides, many excellent games are already compatible with Linux. Like literally just look at SteamOS, like the same thing they put on the Steam Deck. It runs a good amount of games perfectly fine. So you'll be okay, right? The Linux gaming community continues to grow, offering support, resources, and recommendations for gamers. So now you might be like, "Oh, but I don't feel like re-downloading all my games. It's too much time." Well, come on. First of all, you sound like a chronic gamer addict. Anyways, you don't necessarily have to re-download all your games at once. Start by prioritizing your favorite games or those you currently play the most. Like, I remember back in the good old days, the only Vigima game I would ever play was, get this, you already probably know what it is, Minecraft. Yes, that was the only game I used to play when I was younger. So, I mean, let's say you're one of those pro gamers and you got like 50 games open at the same time. Just download the ones you spend most of your attention span on, you know? Just gradually download the additional games over time as you feel the need or desire to play them. But, but, functionally paranoid. What if I don't know how to use a terminal? Okay, dweeb, alright. Many Linux distributions don't even need you to see a terminal. Literally, just like pick any of like the most popular ones and I guarantee you won't even have to see a terminal for a second to use those things. Like seriously, literally the majority of Linux machines or distros come with user-friendly interfaces. This minimizes the need for terminal commands in day-to-day use. In fact, the one I'm using right now, the only reason why I use the terminal on Zorin OS 17 is to run AI and video editing software. I'll get into that maybe in another video, but anyways, you can perform literally all your tasks through graphical interfaces similar to those on on other operating systems like Windows or Mac. And funny enough, I also thought the same thing when I was switching to Linux. When I switched to Linux, I downloaded Ubuntu like an idiot. Don't do that. People always say like, "Oh yeah, just try Ubuntu. Like that's the best one to do." Don't do that. Ubuntu sucks ass. Don't ever use Ubuntu. Well, don't don't believe that. Just don't use the base version. It's stupid. I could not figure out the UI because it literally was completely sideways from a Windows machine, and that right at that time I was still a Windows user, like a Windows power user. Like that's the only thing I ever used back then. And when I used Ubuntu, the thingamabob that holds all your windows is on the left side, and it was not cool. Right? I'm like, damn, that sucks. And then all my games were in like some weird like app list that I had to open up. Basically, unfamiliar. Now, let's say you're thinking, damn, this functionally paranoid guy seems quite intelligent and awesome and epic. I must install a Linux distribution just like this person. First of all, I'm flattered. Second of all, what I would recommend is to just go look at Linux Mint or Zorin OS. Both of those you can't go wrong with. In fact, if you're feeling a little daring, I'd even recommend like something like Fedora, though that's probably a little bit more advanced. But oh, you want to know an even better one? Just thought of this. Q4OS. If you have an ancient machine, I have like, hold on, let's see here. I have like 4 ancient laptops with me. They all have like under 4 gigabytes of RAM. I know one of them, well, where is it? Has 400 megabytes of RAM. And I put Q4OS on all of them, and it's similar to more like Windows 7 and Windows XP, and it's really good, and it's really efficient as well. Yeah, end of point. So get this, Linux is not like Microsoft. The Linux community, unlike Microsoft, is a group of thousands and thousands of people who all develop a crap ton of different forks, versions, or in this case, distros of Linux, which I'm pretty sure is like a kernel or some dumb shit. I don't know, but basically, it's good news / Linux officially, but enough of that nonsense. This community is what's called open source. This means anybody who, has free time can be like, dang, I want to look at the source code for, I don't know, Linux Mint. And they can go do that. They can do that however much they want. They can stare at it until their eyes fall out. But the point of doing this is because it can kind of be considered or compared to democracy, where everybody kind of has like a say in what goes into this piece of software. For example, if you have all the source code available and say somebody sneaks in like a Google Analytics tag, right? Maybe it's like an open source web app, but they're like, dang, I don't want that in my code or in my website or whatever. They can, if it's open source, they could just copy the code, remove that part, and keep it. In fact, and if it's a good open source repo, you can just open up a pull request and it'll be merged into the main branch or whatever, right? I say this because people have the freedom to fork and modify the software at will. That's basically what open source is. But I don't know how do you do X, Y, or Z on Linux. Ah, buddy, you should not be scared of learning something new just because you disliked going to school. Just because school ruined learning for you doesn't mean you have to hate learning. Don't act like that guy who's gonna do something, but then somebody told you to do it. Like, imagine this, like, you're about to empty the trash, right? But then somebody you live with is like, dang, can you empty that trash? It's kind of overflowing and smelly and shit. And then you're like, damn, I was just about to do that, but I'm not gonna do it anymore. Basically, what I'm saying is, don't be that guy. Just empty the trash. Having your data stolen from you is just because you're too comfortable with your current operating system is basically what Microsoft is capitalizing off of. This is what Microsoft is relying on to make the majority of their money, right? They're like, dang, this guy, he's so lazy to not learn this other thingamabob. We're going to make some money off this guy. You're basically their ideal customer. And as somebody who deeply despises Microsoft for what they did to my beloved Minecraft, don't be a supporter of Microsoft by using Windows. Yes, that's exactly why I'm making this video. But functionally paranoid. What if I don't have enough time to learn Linux? I just have no time. Okay, listen up, man. If you're tuning into my content, you're likely somebody who does something with their life, whether it be spending 40 hours a week doing a hobby, going to school, going to work, something like that, right? You spend a decent chunk of your day at some productive thing, right? So let's say a typical business week, it is 120 hours, not including weekends, just for the people who don't know what a business week is, right? Now let's subtract sleep and work, or in your case, it could also be school and other garbage. You're basically left with 40 hours of free time per five-day week, you know? That's a pretty big chunk, my friend. So when you say that you don't have enough time to learn Linux, I kinda gotta call you out. Because how long do you reckon it takes to both install and get familiar with a Linux distro, like Linux Mint or Zorn OS? Like, kind of think about that. Like, it can't be that long to download a 4 GB file, flash it to a USB drive, install it to your machine, reinstall some of the apps you might have lost with Windows, and go about your day. Maybe log into a few web apps on your copy of LibreWolf. If I were to honestly sum it up, at least depending on the Linux distro, like, I know Zorn OS, that's probably one of the easiest installs I've ever done. In fact, I need to nerd out about Q4OS, because it actually has a Windows installer, which is quite frankly unheard of. But I'll let you guys do the research on that. But literally, you just download something. Oh, I guess I do reckon you need a USB flash drive, but that doesn't really take up much time, especially if you already have one. Just find one, flash it. You can use something like Balena Etcher. Just look that up, and then you just go ahead. You flash the Zorn OS image to your flash drive, or in my case, I use a copy of Ventoy. And then you just install it. Like, it really doesn't take that long, especially on modern hardware. But I don't have anything to hide, so why would I want to use a privacy-enhancing Linux distribution? Okay, buddy. Alright. Picture this, man. you are going to go use the bathroom, right? However, imagine nobody taught you how to close doors, right? So for most of your life, you had no privacy. You left the door open on your bedroom, you left the door open while using the bathroom, you left the door open while doing something else, right? And then let's say you finally decide to go use a public restroom and you like, dang, I don't know how to close a door, right? It's kind of funny, but bear with me. So then somebody points out, hey, buddy, you leaving the door open? That's not a good idea. You're going to leave yourself wide open for people to take advantage of you. But despite this warning, you just like, damn, I just don't feel like learning how to close a door. That's basically like you not bothering to secure your data by switching to Linux. And I know comparing something as easy as closing a door to installing Linux might not be one to one, but depending on the distro, it can literally just be. It's like I don't really have any direct ways to compare this, but just it's literally just Windows. It's just Windows, man. I promise. Steam works just like it does on Windows. Anyways, pure complacency, plain and simple. And let me tell you, in this modern age, complacency ain't gonna cut it. If you leave that door wide open, anyone can stroll in, take advantage of you like it's fair game. So wise up, learn how to lock it down, and keep your digital bathroom door closed tight. Don't be the person who can't be bothered to safeguard their own privacy just because, quote unquote, they have nothing to hide. Yeah, like, when you use the bathroom, people are like, yeah, he's probably taking a massive shit in the toilet, right? But it's kind of weird. You don't want people knowing or seeing you take a shit, so you close the door. That's what Linux is, basically. It's like that door. You're getting rid of all that telemetry, and you're securing your system down, and trust me, it makes it even faster. And I have another YouTube video about that. I'll probably put it in the cards or whatever. Oh boy, this reminds me of the time I once got into trouble with an authority figure. Yes, your buddy FP got in trouble with an authority figure. I wonder who could have been. Anyways, they wanted to confiscate my laptop and search it for evidence. But of course, I could have said no, but they were like, hey, no, if you don't give us your fucking laptop, we're gonna, like, if you don't give it willingly, we're gonna just sue the shit out of you or whatever, right? And so this was back when I was using Windows, and I ended up giving them my laptop because I didn't feel like going into mountains of debt, and they found the evidence because I didn't lock up my data. No password, and of course the drive was not encrypted. Don't be like me. Well, now I guess now I think about it, I did try to hide some of the data, but Windows does not do a good job of securing it in the first place. Especially if you can just go into the settings, reactivate the administrator account, and just have full access to the machine unrestricted. Yeah, this leads me on to my next point. So get this, Linux is really stable. Like, there's not a single device incapable of running Linux. Well, maybe except, I don't know, a fucking, I don't know, maybe a hard drive. I don't know. I mean, Linux runs off of a hard drive, but you can't probably run it. I mean the chips on the hard drive, not the actual hard drive. But anyways, from your old 3DS to your newfangled, Poop Station 5, all of it can run Linux in some form. This is because of the good old-fashioned open source community. Like I mentioned, thousands of people have contributed to making Linux work on as many devices as possible. This also makes it extremely unlikely that your hardware will not work with Linux. Yes, this means that you got your ancient-ass Dell T42 with its 490 megabytes of soldered-on RAM, with its 40 gigabyte IDE hard drive. Yes, that thing can run modern day Steam. Yes, just install Linux on it. And let's see here. For example, the recent Steam Deck, I brought this up already, but that runs a version of Linux. And I, being a curious kind of person, got my hands on an ISO, and I went ahead and installed this on an old AMD laptop of mine, because I think something about AMD, I forget why, but anyways, get this, worked no problem, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, installing something like Steam Deck OS on something maybe it wasn't designed for can lead to some incompatibility issues, but it still worked. So why am I saying this? Well, the installation method was kind of jank, so maybe don't install it, but it worked no problems. An OS designed to be installed on a Nintendo Switch clone that's objectively better in every possible words, like, what am I fucking saying? The OS, not to mention, is based on Arch. I run Arch, by the way. I can work. This thing can work on an ancient, shitty HP laptop. That's, honestly, that's quite insane. So this is why I advise, stop with your shitty ass excuses. Go install Linux, because not only can you install like specialized gaming distributions that will literally just be faster than Windows in literally any way imaginable, but even if something says like, oh yeah, yeah, this is meant for the better version of the Nintendo Switch, you can still install it on a laptop. Nobody's stopping you. It's still gonna work. In fact, that's probably why somebody got Arch working on a fucking 3DS of all things. Anyways, so I've been talking about how Linux can help you in various aspects of your digital life. However, I have yet to mention how to speed up your computer. Of course, it might come as common sense, like, oh yeah, doing all this stuff can speed your computer up, right? But I do have another fully dedicated video to this that is like 30 minutes long, because I know you love watching really long content. That's very similar to this. It's titled How to Make Your PC/Laptop Faster. I'll have it linked somewhere on screen. Go click that now, because I know you love watching my content, right? Maybe you don't. Honestly, though, if you don't like watching my content, then I don't know how the hell you're hearing this.